All right, long time no see.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I said I was gonna change clothes, but I walked past a mirror and I looked so damn good, and I really felt like a black Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible, but one.
Do you want to wear the captain's hat?
Not at all, not at all. But not Mission Impossible 3. Not Rambo 1. He's all swole. Hey, but hey,
We so this was supposed to happen last Tuesday, but every once in a while, we're human beings after all, and sometimes
hey,
we just
hey,
don't feel
hey,
like
hey,
it.
hey. We don't make excuses. We make plays. They don't get an explanation. Been entertaining them for almost 3 years now. If enough's not enough, when is going to be enough?
What matters is that we are here now, and tonight, he made me do it. I made him watch Donnie Darko.
And I made him watch Ender's Game.
These were two movies that we watched
that we had never seen before.
So tonight we're going to. He's going to give me some questions about Ender's Game. We'll talk about that for a little bit, and then we'll get into Donnie Darko. But before we get into any of that, let's run the intro. We're going to run that intro one more time with the sound on. And now.
I'm voting for Dukakis. Well, maybe when you have children of your own who need braces, you can afford that because half of your husband's paycheck has went to the federal government. You'll get that, my husband's paycheck. Anyway, I'm not just squeezing out until I'm like 30. Will it still be working at the yarn barn? Because I've heard it's like a place to raise children. That's very funny. No, I think a year of partying is enough. She'll be going to Harvard next year. Mama, haven't you got in yet? Do you honestly think that the caucus will provide for this country before you are able to squeeze one out? Yeah, I do. Why can I squeeze one out? Not till 8th grade. Excuse me. Don, you're such a dick. Whoa, it was a little hostile then. Maybe you should be the one in therapy. Then mine that could pay someone $200 an hour to listen to all your thoughts. So we don't have to. Okay, want to wind out when you stop taking your medication? You're such a fuck ass. Did you just call me fuck ass? Elizabeth, backs him up. You can go suck a fuck. Oh, please tell me, Elizabeth. How does one exactly suck a fuck? You want me to tell you? Please tell me. We'll not have this at the dinner table. Stop. What the fuck?
You raise a daughter. That is my niece, ladies and gentlemen. And that was the effing trailer, man. Congratulations. She is a natural.
Thank you, sir.
You know what? I wish I could take credit for it, but I can't. That was all her. How did that happen, man? First, if you don't know, that's from the movie Donnie Darko. So, we'll get to that later. But, we'll talk about that later. Stick around. That's a tease. That's what we call it in the biz. Yeah. It's a tease.
Yeah. I don't know how that happened.
Did I say it's a tease? You're talking about it. You are still talking about it. Tease them and let them be.
Yeah. It just happened.
Tease them like the female counselor from Heavyweights. And we're here. Guys, if you didn't know what we just did, we're working double duty tonight here with no overtime. We just got done. If you're joining the channel or watching the channel, or if you're just for the first time ever touching this, we just reviewed the film Heavyweights. Go out, check it out, whatever. Already talked about it enough. But we're here for a very special segment tonight. He made me do it. And if this is your first time joining us, what we do is I make him watch a film he's never seen or is reluctant to see, such as something like Pixels. And then he, in return, makes me watch something I probably would have never ever watched, something like The 10. So, and The Invention of Lying, which actually turned out to be a good movie. So again, we're here today to discuss two films, Ender's Game and, of course,
Donnie Darko.
And we're starting with Ender's Game. And of course, this was my selection for you. And I'm just going to go right out the bat and ask you this. Why were you so reluctant to watch this film? Or if not, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Why probably I don't want to know anything about the film. What took you so long to get to this film?
I never heard of it. I never even heard of it until when you put it on your list for, what was it, the top 10 end of the world movies. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know what it was. I had to Google it.
You were ready to go poke a hole in my story and then realize it kind of had something to do with him. Like, darn it, she's right.
But I'll be honest, even if I had heard of it and I saw the cover, just the premise, I probably would have never given it a chance.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So let me ask you this. Now, you start the movie, you're 30 minutes in, knowing what you did not know before and knowing what you only knew 30 minutes into the first act. What are your impressions going in right there?
I was the first impression I got was Harrison Ford was giving me some Morpheus vibes, the way he's looking at Ender. Like,
I found him.
Yeah, he's the one. I'm pretty sure he actually said those words.
I think he did. Yeah.
It was almost it, but no, I liked the first 30 minutes where I found myself being very they were reeling me into the world very effectively. I liked the fact, like, how you're learning about this world our world in the future. You're learning about it in real time with them as things are happening, and the writing was really clever, how they told you what you need to know about this world, like how to operate in it in the time. Like, I really like how it's
a quick world build within like 30 minutes. You're in their world.
And that like the monitoring thing, that was the first thing that really like informed me that this was a very different kind of reality than what we're used to in the present. Like it's been around for so long that what did Harrison Ford said to him, he says that privacy is a right to earn. And it's like, wow, that's weird. So in this time, people are born monitored, and like I was offended by that. But then Ender was like almost upset that he wasn't being monitored anymore. Like he almost wanted Big Daddy government keeping an eye on him. Like he didn't feel like, I'm not being monitored anymore. He felt I don't know, that okay. I thought that was interesting.
So that's where
30 minutes into it, I'm bought in. Okay. I had planned to do laundry while this was playing.
Thank you for your honesty.
30 minutes in, I was like, okay, I'm going to sit down and actually take this in.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this. Okay. So those are your thoughts 30 minutes into the film. And okay. So at this point, you can tell me if I'm wrong or say it's a bad or good comparison. At this point, what I'd say is this film, and I'm being serious when I say this, at this point, 30 minutes in, that's all I'm talking about from both of these films. It's just a more seriously a dramatic version of Star Troopers at this point.
Yeah, yep. I know I have that. Yeah, Starship Troopers meets Hunger Games.
That's very good. That's very astute.
With a little bit of Star Wars, just because I feel like it's Han Solo in retirement trying to train the next Jedi Force.
Gotcha. Now it's funny you say that, because that was going to be one of my other questions to you about the film was, what elements did you see in this film? Did any element stand out post-apocalyptic or sci-fi wise, more importantly, then did it set itself apart, or did certain elements set itself apart than anything else you've ever seen, or was it the same rehash of all sci-fi elements? Was there anything new you hadn't seen?
That was what made me that's what made me intrigued by the first 30 minutes was this was like it was a very unique future. Like I've seen so many dystopian futures, and this somehow managed to be interesting. And the only way it would be interesting is if it was like giving me something that I hadn't seen 100 times before. Like just the way they used the kids, and it was really cleverly done. The way they conveyed the information to you, I think, is what made it seem so much more like unique. Like the way Harrison Ford's in the house with the dad, and when he's coming to get Ender, and the dad's like, no, you can't take.
There's that Harry Potter feel right there.
With all due respect, I don't have to ask. That was just out of respect. Like little things like that to clue you in, like the social dynamics. I thought was what set this apart.
That was my whole point that I was going to bring up, and you're very correct. When they're doing this at the beginning, the film, like you say, cleverly. See, here's the thing: when you first deal with something right post-apocalyptic, you always have to deal with chaos. There's no way not around it. But when you are 40 to 50 years after the event happened, and now there's been military structure established, and there's these policies and things in place, it's just commonplace now. And so they bring you into commonplace, so they don't have to worry about chaos. Thus, the story can progress and be told.
I will say though, for taking place in the future, they did not.
If you're going for the tech experience.
I'm talking about they were very inaccurate as far as where we are heading as a society in the future.
I was going to ask you that. No. At least let me allow to ask that. Where we're going as far as what?
Well, there's one particular scene where the drill sergeant tells them, if we find you in an area not designated for your gender, you will be punished. I'm like, whoa. Now who are you to tell me what gender I designated?
See, here's the thing. I have two answers for that. Well, I have three answers for that. Look at what time the film came out. Look at what time we saw it in, and look at what year the future is based in. There's three different timelines here working.
Yeah, that's true. But
they're saying that's what they think it will be.
This film came out within the last 10 years. That's what's actually 10 years ago.
Okay, so tell me I'm not wrong on this, and this is why you tune in to TTFT After Dark. We joke about it, but we say that the time frame in that film is what, 2100, something like that. But point being is the first step to that type of thought process already started. You have men telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies. That's how it started. So if they're starting with that, 150 years from now, they may say gender this, gender that.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
I don't know.
We might reverse back to the other
which is
way.
why I always tell people, no matter what you want to talk about in life, don't compromise your art or your show for it, because you always find a way to talk about it.
Yeah, that's like. The openness is a rebellion in response to the closed-mindedness of our parents, and so what the kids of the open generation are going to rebel against them by going back to closed-mindedness.
And it's crazy.
Now, bigotry is what's hip now.
Okay, all right. It's funny. You're segueing me into all the questions that I did have, and truth be told, I didn't even email myself my whole thing of notes that I had, but I've been through this a million times, so I already know. I was going to ask you the kids. Let me ask you this: where do these kids rank at on post-apocalyptic type war-ending film kids? Because you got the Hunger Game kids. I'm not saying compare them. I'm saying where. Oh, okay. Tell me why.
Asa Butterfield. I don't know if that's how you say his first name, but
it's better than Antonio Benedetto.
Shout out. Yeah, Emma and I do a fantastic review of Philadelphia. It's going to be dropping this Thursday. You're not going to want to miss it. He's working on it as soon as we're done here. 2 episodes and an edit tonight. But no, Asa Butterfield, I put just Asa Butterfield, bravo. The way he holds his own with Harrison Ford, that's a testament to great writing to set up that dynamic believably, and great performances by both of them. Harrison Ford to not because he could easily overshadow a kid, but he doesn't. He plays it right to the line, and Asa is he's rising to the occasion on his part too. And those interactions between
he's
those
not
two.
But it looks like he's, I'm just saying this to be facetious and funny. He's not on it, but it looks like he's like, man, I'm gonna be acting with Harrison Ford today. Somebody give him my Vicodin, because he is so into these scenes. He is so
within the first 30 minutes, he was the one that made me decide, like, okay, this is a movie I'm gonna watch, because there's just an intensity in his eyes, and like this.
Okay, you're telling me they're your favorite. I like the intensity, but I'm not just talking about acting wise. I'm talking about you.
The story of how,
not the story, like the badassness of the kids in that type of situation.
I'm saying that they are essentially playing adults. Like that.
They were.
The Bonzo. Who is actually Rico from Hannah Montana. That's how I know him. And he was like the little twerp on Hannah Montana that was always up in their business. But he was, to see him play that on Hannah Montana, and then to see him at first,
I hate his face.
When he was barking those orders, though, at first I was like, man, this, but then I'm like,
nah, it made you believe.
He is.
I don't want you practicing. I don't want you on my squad.
He's playing it with so much conviction that he believes that he is a 50-year-old war vet in the shoes of a child, and And yeah, that's the dynamic that the story set up, the fact that these kids are put into this situation, and Harrison Ford and Viola Davis have a really great scene where he's like, well, once we get all this figured out, then we can discuss the dynamic and the morals of what we're doing with kids here.
I can tell you this. I'm going to pick your mouth and go telekinesis on you. I can tell you what one of your favorite scenes was. It got such a rise out of you. I have to train. You can even tell him it was your idea if you want.
Oh, yeah. Right here. Attention. I changed my mind. Yeah, dude. That was this movie could have easily flopped in the hands of kids that were overactors
or directors.
These kids, the movie relied on them nailing these moments, because that's really this movie is really about
Petra. If I'm not maybe I'm saying name wrong, was it Petra? And then even the other guy that he was not even cool with at first, like he played his part.
Yeah. Why you even have me on this team? Because I feel like you can do it. I feel like you can be a part.
Am I wrong?
No, sir. Yeah.
But he had earned their respect.
Yeah,
and that's what they made it. Was the Dragon team? They made his own this team for him, and I just and one of the most dopest scenes throughout the film. And I know I'm supposed to be asking you a question. We're still talking about. Make sure we don't go over our time frame for this one, so we can get to Darko. But one of the best scenes ever when he plays Possum and plays dead. Because my brother put me onto this film. He said, "Bro, dude," he said, "Watch this scene." I'm like, "Bro, I've never even seen this film before." He was like, "Look at this badass scene." When he pretended, then he comes out, he has the guns through space.
What really sold that moment was the insert shot of Harrison Ford feeling what we're feeling, like he's doing it.
Oh, and also Bonzo looking like,
yeah, I'm going to kill this.
And what made that part sweet, they were playing two different teams at that time. That's when they went against two teams. And so, like you said, I love the intermilitary structure of it. But then again, like I say, the film, and we'll talk about, I want to get back to it. I'll segue to Viola Davis after this. The film towards the end, and we're not spoiling anything here, but towards the end, something does happen. I'm not going to speak on what happens, but let me ask you this. Do you see that there was, like you say, I'm not saying it left us on a cliffhanger, but there's more to this story to be told. And are you not surprised that they've not been done a sequel to this yet?
I'm almost glad that they haven't, but yeah, it definitely looked like they were setting it up to continue the story the way it ended.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to the kids and how they were so believable in their roles as, like, adult type figures. One of my favorite scenes is when Ender questions Harrison Ford in front of the the drill sergeant dude, and he's like, he said no questions, like, shut up, essentially. And Harrison Ford's like, no, and he asked, but after Harrison Ford walks away,
I'll never salute you.
Yeah, but when he says, but I love that Ender says, I thought that it was okay to ask a question if it was a legitimate question. He goes, "You will never be a commander. I will never salute you." "Yes, you will." And spoiler alert, he salutes him. And that is such
but he does it out of respect at the end. They're not being funny. But
they do it. That the performances is what sells that part, because it would have been cheesy and
just to do it for no reason. But and I love it. It's not just the performance that sells it, it's when they do it. It's right when he gets his team and he asks them, "Hey, do you think," because he humbles himself, he asked them, "Do you think they'll follow me?" He said, "I would." And then he does it. That makes sense right there. This wasn't like, "Hey, Ender, go get him, kid." Like, no, it was like he was walking out, he wasn't finna do it.
Yeah,
until he humbled himself and said, would you think they felt like he's saying it like, man,
he's pretty much saying you earned it.
Correct. But I'm talking about from Ender's perspective. It shows that moment of levity, his performance. He's still a kid, man. After everything they all going through, and what they talk about and that's what I want to bring up, the psycho F, that without spoiling it in case people haven't seen this, how they psychologically F these kids in the film. How did they, before I get there, how important, and we should have known it, was QVD's Queen Viola Davis's performance in this film.
Yeah.
And her job.
Yeah. I mean, that the game that she sets
I'm sorry,
up. So, like,
please explain what her job was.
So I looked at Viola Davis and Harrison Ford as the mother and the father in
the Oracle and
the traditional roles. Like, she's there to make sure that they.
She was the Oracle, man, and boy was the.
What is that called? She's
architect.
a nurturer.
Yeah,
she's the nurturer. He's molding them, and she's making sure he's not breaking them. Essentially, she's there to make sure that they're mentally capable to do this, and he's making sure they're physically.
Why'd you keep hitting him?
Yeah, but yeah, I loved her, and the dynamic between her and Harrison Ford was fantastic.
Oh, and I love that, because that's something that I love sometimes when movie mashups happen and we get people together on camera that we haven't gotten before, haven't gotten, or maybe never will get again. And again, I know I don't want to get too far out of context. We're staying on the film, and I know we got to get off of it. But since we're talking about Ender's Game, I ask you this now. I want to make a statement. And I want to see what you have to say about it. I feel like you watching Ender Game and you having me rewatch Vanilla Sky about a year or two ago is the reason why we love, and film is one of the most beautiful things ever out there, is because you had no idea about Ender's Game. And for what I'm hearing, you really enjoyed it and would have felt robbed had you never seen it.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie I'm glad that I'd seen. That it started strong, it finished super strong. Like that, if I have one bigger boat in this whole movie about as far as a favorite line, and it's down to the performance of what's his name, Asa Butterfield, when he looks at Harrison Ford after the psychological mindfuck mission, and he's like feeling the weight of the gravity of what just really happened. And when the way he conveys this line to him with those tears in his eyes, and you could tell like he's feeling it in every piece of him. He's like, I will bear the shame of this genocide forever.
Right.
That's like, and you could tell like that's not something like, this isn't something like he's getting nothing but praise from every human, but
that's not what he wants.
It wasn't a political move for him.
No,
he doesn't, like, kids don't care about politics.
And
like they really made me feel for an insect looking alien when that thing came out, and Asa is looking into its
but that's
eyes.
my whole point. What are we to them? An insect looking alien. So it really made it seem like
it flipped it
we're the monster.
And
that's what
and that right there is like why it is so that's like the awesome message in this movie, is that like they're using kids because they have the advantage as far as like thinking tactically in a game like environment,
right?
But at the end of the day, what they didn't consider about children is that children are empathetic. Like they're using them because they have the ability to empathetically get into the headspace of the enemy, but they didn't consider how the toll it's going to take on them because of that empathy.
Well, the truth behind that is, and you know this, unless you were raised in a hate mongering house or a super influential house, usually around somewhere between 10 and 15, or maybe at least 10 and 13 is where you're the most open-minded before society really tells you what it wants you to start doing and thinking and stuff. So
yeah,
because I was going to ask you, why do you thought they used kids? And again, I thought the only other reason I would add to that is because maybe they thought in their mind, kids, if they found out what they did, they were younger, they still had so much longer to get over it.
Well, Harrison Ford said it. He said that that they have the advantage because they still have this like level of empathy about them where they can. And it's that quote at the beginning of the movie. It's like, if you can understand your enemy, you can defeat them. But if you understand them, you love them.
Right.
And that's that is the message of the movie to me is the only way to win the whole thing for them is like, we've got to do this to win all future battles. And what ended up being was, and I think like what would be really awesome if they turned it into a trilogy, is Ender's mission is the only way to win all future battles is peace. Not like that and that you see that on Earth. Like we go over and we take care of 20 terrorists in Iraq and we create 40 more in the process. And that was, I think it had a really cool message as far as that was concerned, on like taking what, like we don't deserve to be traveling intergalactically yet, because we haven't even been able to, if we can't come up with like peace right here on this little thing that
we can't even agree if the moon is hollow or not.
We are not, like, we've got mutiny on our own spaceship.
Foreign and domestic. So yeah, wrapping that up, guys, that was Ender's Game. Again, we're going to move on, but before we do, I just want to say again I'm really glad you liked it, because I really thought, I know you're an intellectual thinker, and I knew that this was going to be something. This kid here, again, I don't know where he's at now and what he's been doing lately, but his performance.
I got so into talking about, I forgot to put up the overlays. Oh. Yeah, Asa, there's Viola.
Yeah, hey baby.
You got Harris. You got
it's Space Indiana.
And somebody I can't believe we didn't bring up yet, the Ben Kingsley upshift.
And Ben Kingsley, baby.
Up 30 seconds into his scene, he's beating up a child. I am the enemy. Mm-hmm. But then he ends up being one of the coolest characters in the movie. Like, he ends up being that guy that did the thing that they've been
trying to do,
and that dynamic between them two, and they're sitting, and you could tell like he is so impressed by the fact that Ender, like, he already knew what he did before he played the rest of the footage.
It's just crazy though, man. But definitely the biggest MF to a kid in kid history. So with that being said,
little
Nugget.
Little Nugget, yeah, the director writer Gavin Hood, he played the giant in the game. He was that guy in
Really?
the game. Yeah, and there was one other note that I wanted to mention that they something that I thought was really neat about this time on with humanity is like we live in a day and age where our slogan is never forget, and I noticed their mantra that's hanging everywhere is never again.
And again,
which is crazy. It's like the parallels are so there.
When I ask you to watch something in the future, man, watch it. Just watch it. Jeez Louise. Oh.
But don't forget, Philadelphia this Thursday, Emma and I do a really heartfelt review of the film.
Let me hold on. I gotta get my notes here for tell them what we're about to do, man.
All right, so we are about to get into the film that I made Royal watch, which was Donnie Darko. And while you
pull up my sticky notes, please.
Your sticky notes?
Yes. My Cindy bunnies.
I don't know where.
You just go right there over to the little thing there, where all the way up to the left.
Right here.
Act like you use a computer for. How do you
That's
like
to
the
the
best
right.
editor I know? It's your left right there. On the actual screen. Just talk to him. I gotta be.
All right. So Donnie Darko. Well, while you're looking for that, I'll just.
I'm going to it. I'm going to it.
While you're going to it,
could you type ST, please?
I'll ask. Have you heard of Donnie Darko before? I had brought Jesus.
They can't see that.
All right, my Gifford is not needed. There we go. Okay, which signs Donnie Darko? There you go.
No, go ahead. Stop looking at. Just ask me the question. Stop looking at my stuff.
All right.
Thank you.
I got it.
Move it down. Yeah, just move it away from you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, had you heard of Donnie Darko or anything before I brought it up?
No, I'm just gonna be honest with you and tell you what every 73% of every black person does when you ask me to watch this. I'm like, oh, Donnie Brasco. I've been meaning to get around to that. You want to be honest? That's why I was laughing at Ronnie earlier when he called. Yeah.
Are you a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal? Like, is he somebody that if he's in a movie, do you make it a priority to see it?
I don't make it a priority to see it, but I can honestly say I've never been let down or felt like why. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's never,
yeah.
You know.
Have you seen Brokeback Mountain yet?
I don't think I'll be viewing that one.
I mean, he puts it all out there. It's a very brave performance.
I love brave performances.
He truly commits to the art.
And I heard it was a masterful performance. I can definitely tell you that. I did hear that. What are you doing?
I'm putting your notes over on the screen over here so you can have them, and I stopped seeing them.
Thanks, kid. I appreciate that. But yeah, but I did, when I realized the film you did ask me to watch, I did realize you were talking about a cult classic, and and that was other people's opinion, not mine. I needed to get into it and figure out why. So yeah.
And this is this Donnie Darko is such a. But before we get too far in, I just had a quick note. So this was 2001, and I would love to hear you explain what Donnie Darko is about.
Donnie Darko is, if Donnie Darko was a commercial, it's that Dare commercial from the early 80s where the egg hits the frying pan and just some voiceover guy tells you this is your brain. First off, why would it be a frying pan? I'm already burning.
Yeah.
Neutrons firing. And then the egg comes in. And then that frying pan hit the floor. But then you realize that floor was the center of a kaleidoscope that had been discarded 4 years prior, that had been left on the top of a space station that was built by an alien race that never existed, that only was translucent in the mind of someone with schizophrenia before they found out they never existed. Is Donnie Darko.
That's and the
they act like you even pretend to even understand. You speak well now, so you get it.
I heard the key words.
Yeah.
If you could think, so this movie obviously it deals with time travel.
No, it doesn't obviously deal with time travel. It does deal with it, but
it dabbles in time travel and alternate.
I thought you were supposed to be asking me what I thought.
Well, I'm gonna ask what is because I have a segue here.
Okay.
The other we've covered this film, another film that kind of gets trippy with time.
Oh, Tenet?
Yeah.
Or if you had to ask me which one's better, Donnie Darko.
Well, I bring it up because Christopher Nolan just seems to love to put things out there, but the other film he did, Memento, and then Tenet, and he had his hands in this. Like, this movie would have never seen the light of day. It would have never seen the theatrical light of day without him. Like, he had just came out with Memento, and he distributed it with New Market Films. This was in its like 4 months after a festival run, Donnie Darko was, and it had no takers. Christopher Nolan had like seen it and told New Market Films that they should take a chance on it, and that's why it ended up getting a theatrical release. So like the Godfather of time travel fuckery actually has his fingers in the back door of this. And I think the reason why this had such an issue, the reason why there was such an issue getting this, like finding a market for this, was, you know, like the part that like the catalyst of the whole movie, the thing that literally falls on the house, it's involving a plane accident. This was released in October of 2001. Like 1 month after.
Wow.
Yeah, and they couldn't like they had like that is obviously going to be a part of the trailer, and when everything happened they couldn't really run any of the marketing materials for it because it was just too alarming. So what, like, everybody has all right, well, before we get into theories and the grand scheme, I'll ask, who would you say, obviously Jake Gyllenhaal is like, he carries the movie, so he's an obvious scene stealer, but who stood out to you besides him in the movie as far as characters?
I got a few people who stood out here. As a matter of fact, I think about, I guess I should.
Somebody's got a Lake Disney, which I believe that might be Florida Man, possibly. Attitudinal beliefs. Every time Patrick Swayze is on screen, a horse can be heard neighing in the distance. Huh. That's interesting. Oh, well, and that scene with him was really shot on his that infomercial that they did for him was really shot on his farm.
All right, so here we go. If I had a scene stealer,
Thanks for watching, Lake.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Keep up the good
I believe
work.
it's Florida Man.
Not when he's online. He's using his avatar name. Allow him to do it. My scene stealer. You know what my scene stealer would have been? BFG.
BFG.
Yeah. Beth freaking Grant. How did I not hear you say a billion times when we've done so many episodes, when we've interviewed her? I was pretending I knew what Donnie Darko was when you said she was in that. I was just oblivious to the fact. If you go back and watch that interview,
you're Ben Kingsley downshifting.
Yeah, I was doing go back and watch this, because this was I had seen her performance in Tu Wong Fu. Of course, you know, I've seen her performance in The Office, the Wife's Girlfriend episode there. I love it. Love you, Beth Grant. Also check her interview out here on the channel here. Just another shameless plug, but I really loved it. It came unexpected because I thought, oh, here comes another bit role for her. She deserves so much more than this. And before I knew it, she's doing it. And I'll get more into her later. That's what he said.
Yeah, Beth Grant killed it. She was if I had to give a scene stealer to anybody, it would probably be of Maggie Gyllenhaal. That their dynamic was so natural. She is hot.
And she wasn't even like, scantily clad or anything. Just a nice, wholesome.
And
nice.
You gotta give kudos to Patrick Swayze for playing the character. Okay.
I'll get there.
Yeah. Let's check the comment real quick. Yeah, only in the VHS tape in the class. Oh, and where's the body? Where's the body at? That ain't sounding right. What's up, sir? Okay.
I want to start with, first off, shout out, since someone did bring up Patrick Swayze here. Shout out to the Tu Wong Fu connection again. Go check out Emma Everywhere on Tu Wong Fu. We got Beth Grant and Swayze together again, and she talked about that. And that was just so dope. I was like, but it was a dope. I know you don't have the picture of it, but notice what made me think about it. I was like, oh, I get to cheat and say they were on screen together, because she's in the gym or teaching the class, but he's like on the TV.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's pretty crazy, man. Also, I just found it funny. I'll get into it later. When he's I was thinking, man, I wish he would just go Nobody Puts Baby on the Corner and do that little jump kick off stage when old boy was giving it to him. And I think I was like, I wish he was just
dude, you're already on the stage. Just jump off. You're a motivational speaker. Nothing's gonna get motivated.
Yeah.
Oh, can you appreciate the fact that the movie takes place? Wardrobe change. Sorry. The movie takes place in the 80s.
Does it take place in the 80s or for the ladies? What are you doing?
Hey. So this was 2001, and like I want to appreciate the fact that like right now, doing a movie that's or a TV show that centers around 80s nostalgia, that's like all the rage right now. But it wasn't really in 2001. This was kind of ahead of its time as far as that's concerned, going back to that time frame.
Exactly. What year did they go back to?
I don't know exactly.
It was 88.
It was 88, yeah.
And I loved it because we're kids of the 80s. So I was like, oh man, I felt like I was in a, no pun intended here, time machine. I'm just going to tell you a couple of things that I have listed out here while you're asking me these questions, and hopefully it'll lead you to asking me another question. Check the comments while I zoom in here to see what I got here. Okay, let's start. I got two things. Number one, let's start with this. So we're just doing Blow in the Hallway. It is the 80s. We're just doing Blow in the Hallway now. Watch this. He thinks he's Danny DeVito from
who's doing Blow in the
Are
Hallway?
you freaking kidding me? That opening montage, dude's walking. Somebody's in the locker with a young Seth Rogen, by the way. Yeah. Caught that. Love that. He leans in. He was like, it's right at the beginning. I'm like, yo, money. That's what we doing.
What was your favorite scene in the movie?
Oh man, I know I have it here because
there's a lot of good scenes.
I'll tell you. Hold on. I'm gonna tell you right now here. There we go. Dude, you know what's funny? There are a lot of, for this not to be such a, it's a dark, it's not a comedy. Oh, thank you, man. Preach, bro. Okay. Just read. How about we do this now? You read. Thanks, man. Right. Okay, let's start here. We got a young Noah Wild, which freaked me out because I've been a Noah Wild fan for a while. Literally, no pun intended. Like he's been on Librarians, but I really loved him from the show Leverage. He's one of the he was the second leader on the show Leverage, but he's been in a bunch of shows, man, and I really just like how he's one of the good actors out there.
That's not the dad, is it?
Oh no, that's a teacher. That's the Tom teacher. Noah Wild.
Yeah, he's like, I don't think I can have this
conversation anymore. And he was like, why? Because I'll get fired.
Yeah,
those were the 80s kids.
Yeah.
So I love that. So we just the little at the beginning, the little sister dance number. Like at first I didn't know why it was so funny, but I just loved this little sister. It was out there, they like in the school. But I'm like, wait a minute, this is the sneakiest montage, and we went from a regular thing happening, and before I knew it, I was in some montage, and the blow got me in the hallway. I didn't know what was going on. Okay. Again, a very young Seth Rogen. If you didn't know us, he was casted as Seth.
Yeah.
That's a young actor's trick.
His first time in a feature film, and his first line is, "I like your boobs."
Yeah. And it was crazy, man, because again, like I thought it was a young actor's trick. This is what I do. Like if you get your first movie, like you just said, you don't know if it's going to be your last. I need to be my name.
Yeah.
Just in case, so I could tell my people I was here.
Yeah.
Seth was here. Read that line for me.
What line?
Were you
really about to masturbate in therapy?
In fairness, that wouldn't have been his fault though. She put him under.
Yeah. Well, I mean, did she though?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Just like from the film we did, Barbarian.
Yeah.
He wasn't asleep.
Yeah.
Oh, now you agree with me.
Well,
a couple of times rewatch it.
No, you wrote me into that agreement. I
just wanted you there. Okay. All right. That Smurfette story scene is so fun to me.
Oh yeah.
When he was talking about, like, first off, Smurfette came from Gargamel. He's like, no, I'm telling you, man, he got in on that action. I was dying. Like, Papa Smurf got something. Like, he's kind of watched the tape. He filmed it. Mm-hmm. Like, it was just, it's something kids would talk about back then because it's so time specific. Like now you would think they were stupid. Like why the F would they be talking about the Smurfs? That's what they grew up on. And so that's what they would be talking about then.
Yeah, this was 88. And he was they had to get clearance on that, and
just to talk about him.
And the creators of the Smurfs actually signed off on it. They're like, yeah, that's actually everything he said is correct.
Yeah, they're asexual, man. You can't do that. Yeah. So Oh, dude, that I love. First off, I love that. I don't know if it was the original decision, but I love the decision to where he's getting pissed off at his teacher in class, and he says something to her, but we don't catch it right away. They jump right to the parents being in the office, and we find out what he actually says, and it makes me laugh. But then his dad laughs, and I love that it just made. I love the dad, and I'll tell you something right now about these parents, about mommy and daddy. Let me go and get into the mom. Oh yeah, there she goes. Let me get into mommy and daddy. Okay, were these Darko's parents or Dahmer's parents?
I think they played the role.
I'm gonna say that again. Were these Darko's parents or Jeffrey Dahmer's parents?
I just think they were playing the role of 80s parents that are just like removed from what's really happening.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I'm gonna
lives.
tell you about what I think about happening removed with the mommy. Give me the mommy. Where's she at? There you go. This is mommy. So, bro, I know, like, she was pill popping this whole film, had to be, bro.
Oh,
because
yeah.
I was looking at how she kept looking at Beth Grant in some of those scenes. Like, she was thinking about either killing her or she was on lewds. Something was going on.
Yeah, that scene that we played in the intro that Adeline recreated. She's got the wine, and you know that the wine is taking those pills to the next night.
The pills are in the wine.
Yeah,
something's going on, and I'm just looking at it, and because now we see why Beth Grant kept saying, "You are the last mom I would have asked to go, but they gotta go."
Yeah.
So I love that she kept giving it to her in her face, no pun intended. But then let's go and talk about what I really want to talk about. Why couldn't she go? Because she had to be there for Jesse. Jesse, listen, I want to tell you this right now. He has immediately entered one of my top 10 sleaziest people of all time characters in film history, and that is so hard. But I hatefully love me some Jimmy effing Cunningham. His role in this trumped some of the roles he's actually done before that I actually liked.
Yeah,
and
they did
love
that.
it.
They did it so subtly too. Like, if you're not really paying attention to the movie, you could watch the whole movie and never know that. And I love that you find out about that like after he burns the house down. Like, you're thinking like,
oh, don't even say what it is yet. We'll get
doing
there.
this stuff, but then kudos to the rest in peace, Patrick Swayze.
KPD. Kitty Porn Dungeon.
Oh,
Kitty
yeah.
Porn Dungeon. Kitty Porn, like, dude, those are first off, they didn't say they found a room, a hole, a bucket, a belt, a camera, a kitty, meaning like if they were grown, it was some dominatrix type stuff going on. But for kids, so it was crazy,
for
bro.
him to take that part too. That's
yeah.
And it's not like you got to know that he didn't get like a big paycheck.
Oh, but here's the thing. After doing Tu Wong Fu, they can't listen. Hey, I'm an actor. You can't judge me for anything I do.
Yeah.
And I love that. I really did love that, man. But again, Jimmy, his character. And again, like I say, it wasn't just what he was saying and doing. We got to see him almost in, like, he was a bigger than life character. We got to see him on TV. I love when old boy Darko asks him, "Are you getting paid for this appearance?" and things of that nature. And he tells me things he's the Antichrist, and everything he tells him, it was 100% correct. He's like, "You're not helping these people. You're essentially saying the same thing my dumb teacher was saying. Love and fear. It's not that simple. Yeah. If I take the money." It wasn't I was in fear. Mm-hmm. I did the lovely thing by giving it back, but I was afraid I wasn't going to eat. And that was a smart thing to do. Like, he's trying to tell it's not that simple.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I love Jimmy Cunningham in the film, man. He literally, like, and he wasn't himself.
Yeah, no, he was, I mean, hopefully not.
No, I mean, you know what I mean, but no, he was dope, man. What are some, okay, what's it called? Kitty Porn Dungeon. Oh my God! When that girl walked up there, says he's like, "Yes, who can I help in the audience?" Jimmy, come here. She was like, "Yes, my sister's eating too much." Shut up, Kim. Yeah. Oh my God, dude, I died. I'm like, oh my God! It did a Chad Hendrick whiff. It was like, like, shut up, Kim. I'm like, oh my gosh. I think you're the Antichrist. Hey, didn't you like stab your mom?
Yeah, this movie is so unassuming. Like, they give all the characters get a little something. Like, there's nobody that's just, there's no like supporting characters. It's just wasted. And I think that's like, movies like this are so rich. Like, they have everybody in it is contributing to it. Like, you can get like a good line from every character, even if they're just in it for a scene. You do, and they doubled up on this. I know this wasn't Beth Grant's first role, but just like we talk about Seth Rogen being named Seth, Beth Grant had a daughter in the team in the film, and her name was Bethany. And she named her that, and then they confirmed it later on. I thought I just heard it. They confirmed it later on. She was like, "Your daughter Beth," and I was like,
gotcha. So they did that again. I really love that. Dark again. You see what I say? Hey man, shout out to the best dance team from the 80s that never got recognized.
Yeah.
Sparkle effing motion. And I'm serious about that.
What I love about that is that they didn't go over the top with it.
It was almost, it went right to the line and stopped. It went right to the line and stopped.
But it was believable that could have been put on by a school.
It was believable. What was ironic was that they had, and that was the hypocrisy of it, that Beth Ranson, they're talking about words in the book, and you got them 1 inch away from being expelled.
Mm-hmm.
We made the Ed McMahon show. Another like reference to the 80s. I love the 80s nostalgia. I love the 80s reference, man. It was just so good, man. Like now, here's the crazy part about it. We've been talking about it for this long now. I know we're supposed to be wrapping up soon here, but we've been talking about this long. And what we really didn't talk about, if you didn't ask me, what I was going to bring up was this secretly is mentally and such an intelligent film.
Yeah. I don't think there's even a secret about it. So there's going to be spoilers from this point on.
Yeah.
So in the beginning of Donnie Darko is sleepwalking at night. And in the beginning of the movie, because he's sleepwalking, he's not in his bed when a piece of an airplane,
an engine falls.
One of the jets falls on the engines, falls on the house in his bed, and he doesn't die. And then all of these like weird supernatural things start happening. You get Frank, which is one of the coolest looking characters ever in a movie.
How many people you ever seen a Halloween costume of Frank?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everywhere. But that's what was so neat is like you get this really creepy character that he keeps seeing in his visions. And then you find out later on that it's because it's over Halloween and it's somebody in a Halloween costume that ends up killing.
That's when, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I don't want to say that's when intelligence enters the film. That's when intelligence enters the filmmaking process, because if you leave people out on a cliffhanger, then it just becomes too abstract. But when they bring you back in and let you know something, this was something all along, something that we had said, not you and me, but as a film watcher, you're saying stupid rabbit. I'm like, oh, silly rabbit tricks weren't for kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they make it out to be like, oh, you funny. You think your film's gonna be so dope because you have this bunny, and you realize, it's
there for a reason.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not just like a cheap trick.
I did get mad at you for a little bit, for just a little bit throughout the first 15 minutes. I said, I'm gonna stab you right in the neck. I got some Heredity vibes.
It does have that feeling like it could go anywhere, but it stays pretty grounded as far as like emotionally.
Does it?
Well, I mean, the fact that he is essentially, it's like a tale of sacrifice. Like, the first time I saw it, I didn't understand how it went back in time for this thing to fall and the piece of the plane to fall on him. And when Frank was telling him when the end of the world would be, I had always thought that was just his, like, when you die, that's the end of the world as far as you're concerned. And I thought that that's what he was counting down to, like not the end of the actual world. But then I was under the impression that he had to sacrifice himself in order to save the world and didn't even know why and couldn't understand why.
You know why you think that? Because you're part of the manipulated living.
Yeah. So what he's referring to is the manipulated living, according to the book that he reads about time travel in the movie. The manipulated living are people that are essentially, everybody in your life are pawns. If you are somebody that is destined to do something great or save the world, if some force above us that is manipulating things, everybody else is the manipulated living, the pawns in the game to essentially move you into the place that you need to be at, where you need to be there, when you need to be there to do what needs to be done.
I will say this, spoiler alert here, because again, I'll be honest with you. After I watched the film, I didn't have all the answers, but what I did have was the luxury of living in 2023 and going and typing into YouTube. We love you, YouTube.
Donnie Darko
explained. And explained to make sure I wasn't crazy. And I was like 75% right, but then they added one part that I did not know, and I don't care about spoiling this, but I was happy. I wasn't happy I missed it, but I was like, oh yeah, it was right there in front of me the whole time. This is like, and they say it, they hint it, and that's what makes the film brilliant. If you really pay attention, he was a superhero, an unassuming one. He didn't ask to be one, But if you're paying a part attention to the film, you look so happy now as if you're like, oh, he gets it. Like when it was it's not the living embodiment, but they said he became the receiving part of it. And then when you realize what he's doing in order to, it's almost like he's, without saying it, like he really, in some sense, lets his own death happen so that everyone can be happy. That's like an underlying message.
It's like a butterfly effect.
Oh yeah.
What did you? How do you think that? Like, I thought it was really telling that, like on the refrigerator, it says
Donnie
and every night he's disappearing, and there was one explanation that I read that it was like when he was sleepwalking, he was going into like a parallel universe, and that parallel universe was created when the jet engine fell.
The tangent universe.
Yeah, the tangent universe.
Yes. I do my research.
So how does that but what I could never wrap my mind around is how like time travel, he was able to see into the future, it seemed like, but I never really felt like he could go back in time. So I didn't understand. I still to this day don't understand how he ended up being able to be back in that position to be hit by the piece of the plane. I just don't.
I'll try my best.
My mind around that.
I'll try my best again. A little rushing on this, and I'll try here. But again, I'll talk myself so it'll happen. But again, now remember, when Frank shows up to him the first time and he leaves his home, and it's almost, think about this. This will make it seem a little bit more familiar to you. And as soon as I say these two words, you're going to kind of see where it fits in. The final destination theory kind of starts to happen. He leaves it. Frank tells him to leave the house. He leaves. So he's supposed to die, but he doesn't. So that jet engine falls. So when that jet engine falls and he does not die, that creates the tangent universe. Now, so there's two universes that are happening. There's the regular one, the perfect universe, as they call it, and then the tangent universe. Uh-huh. So in the tangent universe, the reason why Frank's saying your world's going to, he didn't say your world. He said, yeah, your world's going to end in so many days. The reason why he's saying that is because allegedly whatever Darko actually had, what was wrong with him, usually lasts about 30 days. So he was saying that world was going to end. So he had an insight into the future. And so when you're saying how did he go back in time, it's not that he went back, in time to fix it. It's just he knew when it would end. And since he knew when it was going to end, he knew what he had to do to save them. So that's essentially what it was. He was seeing it
almost like the way he's seeing it.
And right, but remember when they showed up, those didn't show up right away. It's like a weekend. And I was just going to tell you, it's kind of like what you did with Kill. Throughout the week, and it got more angry, more intense, and those other things started. Oh, yeah, definitely.
In the book, it was like, it even said like, the receiver will have intense strength. They'll be able to control water, and it's like he got the thing in the statue.
We didn't even see it.
The school,
and we didn't even see it. They throw it right in front of our face. We see him pour all that gasoline. Don't see him like one match.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And then they said his strength. They were like, what did they say? That, man, you got to be really strong to put that axe into the mascot's head. They say that.
And the crazy thing is that like my first impression of the movie, and the easy explanation is just to say that he is schizophrenic and this is all happening in his head.
Well, I think that was true too. I think that's why he was chosen.
But it can't be. Well, yeah. I think he might have some kind of things going on, but there is truth to the vision, because there's no way like those things that were coming out of people,
but leading them right where they're
not. Well, I wouldn't say leading them, but predicting where they were going to go, predicting their paths. And it would be one thing if he saw these things going this way and the dude walked this way and he had to like readjust what he was imagining. But if a delusion is telling you the truth, really predicting the future, then what is, like, if it's a psychological delusion, then if it's true, then what's
you're
the problem?
Saying exactly what Noah Wall's character, the time teacher, the teacher says. He says essentially that, because he was having an argument with Darko, saying, and it's an argument of who's on first. You can go back and forth, chicken or egg, but he's essentially saying that if you see these predetermined paths, and then because Darko's trying to say, well, it's predetermined, he was like, well, no, if you see it, then you have the option to not do it. Mm-hmm. But what we noticed was even Darko followed the path. No one strayed. So it's almost like there's not predetermined fate.
Yeah, that's true.
No one, if one person would have strayed, so he went up there and got the gun, the same gun he used to kill the bunny, which then like I told you, when that bunny
like leading, it's like Frank led him to his own death.
Now, I did want to ask you about that. Now, am I wrong? Was that Drew Barrymore?
Yeah, and she actually produced it.
Well, then maybe you can help me understand this because maybe I missed it. Why did she know who Frank was? I felt like a little Frank was in her too for some reason. Why did she know who Frank was? There was some missing right there about her.
Yeah, there is like, I think there is just things like that put into place to throw you off. To
she
like
leans down to him, she's like, maybe Frank will do it.
Yeah,
and then I'm getting messed up because later on in the movie it said Frank went for beer. Why does everybody slowly as it gets towards the end?
she was being used.
Oh no! Wait a minute. I just got it as I just asked you. I said, why was there a message on the thing that said Frank left to go get beer? I'm like, that's weird. Frank did leave to go. The real Frank.
Yeah,
and the real. Yeah, yeah.
That's what I love about this movie is that I have had so many different theories about it, and I still don't fully understand it. But even not fully understanding it, it's just such a fun movie to watch and just talk about. Which is why I told you, like when we were watching, I was like, do not watch the director's cut version because the director's cut takes all of that appeal out of the movie.
What do they do? What's the difference?
All of the questions, there's no ambiguity to it. All the questions are answered.
How? I mean, what are they doing different to tell me what's going on?
I don't want to.
Oh no, I want to talk. What you're saying, they put things in place so you.
It's like there's like 40 extra minutes of footage, and it leaves nothing to question.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, but I love how I love how they left things to question. And again, if you're going to ask me, I can just tell you this right now. I'm glad I watched this film. It's one of those times where, and I'm not going to lie, you, the first 10 to 15 minutes, I thought like I'm going to be bored because I'm not going to lie, it starts off like being there almost, and you don't know what you're getting into. But that scene at the beginning that your daughter masterfully recreated. It really lets you know something's gonna happen. But again, it's set in the 80s. It's done very well, and it's definitely what do we call these? These are rewatch films because you're gonna see something different each time. They either keys you in towards your theory or brings you away from it. But I'm telling you, man, like I had the questions, I had to go find out what was truly going on with it, and to find out he was really, again, like they don't say it in a dark way. They're saying, hey, no pun intended, dark way. If I let myself die, none of this pain will happen to any of these other people.
Yeah, he's a Jesus. It's a Jesus story.
Right. But then they lean into the lore after it. And that's what I figured out about what the last scene was about, almost similar to for V for Vendetta, when they show unmask all those people at the end. All those people we see at the end, notice, of course, they save the one girl for the end because she comes back to life, or does not die because the tangent universe collapsed on itself. Mm-hmm. But they show you that they were talking about usually when you're affected by a dream. And you know how I feel about dreams because, like I say, I feel like when we're dreaming, we're tied to, and I don't care what people say. They're going to say, I'm not, this is one time I'm saying a word, but I do not mean it Marvel wise. The multiverse, I feel like they're different consciousness.
Yeah, we might be dreaming right now.
Correct. And when we go to sleep, we might be up. And that sounds more to like be right. Just a little bit of temporary happiness and going back to bed. But but what I will say is they leaned into some of the things that the philosophy and the science behind. If something happened to you in your dream, it leads to, because you saw the dude's drawing of the bunny heads after that. You saw the other people like, dang, you woke up like that dream felt too real. What, you know why? Maybe it was.
Yeah.
And that's why that maybe somehow in some way they figured out the human consciousness can only stand 30 seconds a day or 1 or 2 minutes. And for the rest of the time, they got to keep us asleep. This is the dream we're living.
Well, I give Ender's Game a 4. What do you give Donnie Darko?
4.4.
4.4.
Yeah. Well, no, it's strong, man. And again, I don't expect everybody to get it. I don't expect everybody to believe it. But again, I watched it, and anytime somebody tells me something's a cult classic, I'm watching it with extra peepers. I'm all the way zoomed in on it. And I had to say at first, I'm like, yeah, nah, not for me. Kept watching. And then before I knew it, I had spark of motion. I was laughing and stuff. I was writing notes. You see, I had all that stuff. I called you right afterward. Like, man, I just don't think you respect sparkle motion. You committed to sparkle motion.
That's the thing that makes the movie enjoyable, is that you could look at it and dissect it and pick it apart and be like a film detective watching it. But even if not for that, it's like it's good as a comedy. It has enough hilarious parts going through it, even when it's not like an actual joke. Just the way the characters interact with each other and the dialogue.
When he left her in that movie theater, I'm like, this is gonna be so over with. But it's the 80s, man. She'll be there when you get back.
Yeah,
just crazy.
Gotta love Gretchen.
Oh yeah, Gretchen's cool, man. Yeah.
Oh, and they did Richard Kelly, the writer director.
I don't know why she was giving me Sloane Peterson vibes, but go ahead.
He directed a a spiritual cousin to this movie called Southland Tales. It has pretty much everybody in it who was popular in the mid 2000s. It did not do well at all. I personally like it. It's nowhere near as good as Donnie Darko, but it's very entertaining. They made a sequel to Donnie Darko called S. Darko that follows his sister after these events.
Is it really her?
I don't know. I've never seen it.
Sometimes you don't want
to. When the writer director of something that's this like intertwined and stuff, if he's not doing the sequel, then it's like, I don't really trust it in the hands of somebody else because the world
like
is
Exorcist.
Yeah. Like you'd have to whoever's doing the sequel would have to prove to me like that they really understand what's happening on every level of the first one to take the reins and run with it.
I will say this again, Donnie Darko again, for the end it out. I really think that I'll say this. I think one thing that again, one last thing about Donnie Darko is again, I really appreciate the fact that I hadn't seen it before and that it made me think. It kept me on my toes. It kept me really just trying to dive into what was going on. And I hate when I get invested so much and then there's no payoff at the end. Heredity. And I really that's whatever story for another day. But I will say now, last thing before we sign off is this, like these two movies, there are really some comparison in these films. If you really look at it, as far as making like really Ender using his mind.
It's on a kid to save the world.
I couldn't have said it any better, Dave.
Yeah, when we said that, I forgot when we went into this. I said let's try to find some kind of way to draw a comparison between the two, and it was impossible to know at the time because I hadn't seen Ender's Game and you haven't seen Donnie Darko. But yeah, thinking about them both, it is about like an adolescent bearing the burden of having to save the whole world.
And Donnie Darko, it was about the end game.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's
by
crazy.
the way, we're real quick. Speaking of Ender's Game and going to the end of Ender's Game, I just wanted to say that I as much as I love
here we go. Let me guess, you hated the ending.
I love the ending. I just wish I knew it was the ending. Like what they say, I wish we knew it was the good times when we were in the good times.
Oh, it's the ending. I don't think nothing's ever happening with that.
Well, I was like, I was watching that end scene. I was like, oh my, like if this is just the trial, the practice, like, oh my God, the actual climax of this movie is going to be insane. I was like, and then to find out afterwards, like, oh, that was the climax. But they made up for it with that scene between him and the alien. They Ben Kingsley downshifted for the end. Instead of going up with all out war, it was this very heartfelt scene. So I'm glad I watched it.
And like you say, sometimes it should be left into interpretation. So guys, there you have it. If you haven't seen any one of these films, you're cheating yourselves, and believe it. Hey, we were both thoroughly impressed on this. I'm happy.
This was my favorite one that you've made me do so far.
This might be mine as well. I think it was. I can definitely see that. I'm making up for those things from the past. But again, Ender's Game, and again, the acting performances from these kids, immense.
Yeah. All across the board. Ender's Game and Donnie Darko. Watch them back to back.
Yeah.
And also this Thursday, don't forget, Emma and I are, it's Emma everywhere doing Philadelphia. I jump in as a special guest to help her with the review of Philadelphia.
So you're special guesting on your own show.
Yeah.
And the role of Jesus will be played by.
Yeah.
All right, guys. It's been live. It's been fun. Hey, listen, we appreciate everything you guys do for us here. All the one or two people watching now, or if you're watching it now while you're at work, or just cut it on and go to sleep. I don't even care. You know why? Because you're still watching it. But we really appreciate everything you guys do for us. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep showing, and we'll never stop growing. Mr. Royal signing off along with Mr. Durden. Any final words?
Peace out.
Peace. Love.